And people who attend our center and our retreats and our programs all tend to fall into survival mind for years and decades at a time. And they've been in it so long that they believe and perceive, and they are all believers, that this is the only reality that there is for themselves. And so they take medication and try a little bit of this and a little bit of that, but they never seem to change the things that they suffer that stand in the way of their freedom and happiness. So what we tend to do with people when they first come into our center or attend our programs is to get them to stop, S-T-O-P. Stop thinking, because every time you think, you're running a program, and that program that you're running decade after decade and year after year is a program locked into the past. It is in your body, it is in memory, it is habit, it's how you do every day. It is what you do every day, and how you think is how you shall be, as we know. So getting change to happen is no easy task. You literally have to go beyond thinking, and then even further, beyond your persona. I mean, what do we think a personality disorder is? It's a disordered persona. And those masks and personas we've put on since we were children, suffering inevitable trauma and anxiety and stress just due to the nature of life. But there comes a time in someone's life when transformation and awakening and healing, renewing and recovery, all of these things become necessary, and we can feel somewhere inside that there is another way to live, a better way to live. And that's what we teach people how to access. We teach people how to go in and get the energy that is oftentimes stuck in the bottom of their brains. It is energy stuck in the bottom of their spines, in their root, that they need to release. And when they start to release that energy, their thoughts begin to change. But that's just the beginning of what we've understood, scientifically speaking, through all the research we've done over the last decade and a half at the center, is understanding that if people can stop their thinking, they can then go beyond that thinking into meta thinking or meta cognition. And to access metacognition is going to take certain practices. And we teach those practices on a daily basis. Meditation, contemplative practices, mindfulness, all these things which start to shift energy, number one, all the way through the being. Where else is motivation going to come from? And the power or action potential to change, but through energy. And scientifically speaking, we've watched people come in when they've had a scan, and we see them functioning in neural imaging scan, which is a video of the brain, and we see all the activity in the downstairs of the brain. So it's not only coming in and changing one's attitude, but it is changing one's entire neurocircuitry to operate in an entirely different hemisphere. And that's no easy task for most people, because they don't know how to do that. So that is the system that we teach, and it's curing and healing people from all over the world with a ton of different symptoms, different manifestations of fear, avoidance, inadequacy, self-worth, and all of those things are stored in that valley of the brain, and we've got to get them out of it into the front and literally fire and wire in a totally different part of the brain where they can access a totally different experience, bringing totally different good consequences, the consequences that they want to see and feel for themselves in their life. So to go beyond one's thinking when you've been running your own program for decade after decade is no easy task. You're going to need some kind of system to do it, and that's what we've created with the research that we've done. We've learned how to take people from a survival mind to a thriving mind, where previously only fight, flight, freeze, flop, fawn, faint were leading their lives. They were running on automatic, on these traumatized memories that have ingrained and entrenched themselves in the subconscious. So the brain ends up hating change, and people are saying, but I want, and in fact I need change, and they cannot access it through their brain. which makes a ton of sense because now we understand that where that brain is actually functioning, downstairs, limbic system, hind brain, where that's all happening is right there at the basal stem, and you're experiencing it in your body, all these thoughts. And that's where pain and suffering all, of course, manifest in our pain bodies. And we need to get out of that body and out of that mind if we want something different and new. We have seen so many people heal, and in fact, people keep saying to us, how on earth, we've been everywhere in the world, we've been to all kinds of clinics, we've tried all kinds of medications, how on earth do you do it in such a short period of time, healing such a diverse number of mental, emotional, spiritual, psychological, physiological issues? And how we do it is simply by stopping one thing and changing everything into something different. People will often ask, what has to change? And we say everything. And they feel like this is a mammoth task, but that's only their thinking that gets them there. Changing everything and changing your personality is not only something that you should do, it's something that's necessary. And we find that first in life, you've got an order box where everything is working. It ends up at some time in life, after the accumulation and the math of life has taken its toll, that we find ourselves in the second box of life, which is disorder. And people tend to stay there. They think that that's all there is. In fact, a lot of people commit suicide thinking that life is disorder. But there is another box, which is reorder, and it's recognition that we're really concerned with here. Rethinking the way we were thinking. So if your thinking is not working for you, you're going to feel terrible. You're going to experience that suffering in every inch of your body. But when we can run a new program of thinking, your emotions change, your physiology changes, and you access something new, which is an entirely different part of the brain in the front, which is potential, action potential, imagination, spontaneity. You're able to thrive with uncertainty instead of certainty, control, staying stuck, personality disorders, and move into something different. So you're able to experience the adventure of healing and life transformation for yourself in a very short space of time, accessing an entirely new part of the brain. And we've seen that the old adage, it takes 21 days to change a habit and 90 days to change a lifestyle, is absolutely true. And this is hardcore science that is proven time and time again. And the whole program we run now is all about the science of finding your spiritual self, which is this energy, this chi, this shakti within you that activates this new part of the brain that helps you think, feel, look, act, move differently, and change. The change that people experience is seen in their body. They've got wider range of motion. They come in walking slowly with a shorter gait, and they end up walking much, much faster, looking, feeling 20 years younger. When people run a different program that is not based in all the basics of the mind, because that's what happens. It goes into survival mind, which is monkey mind, lizard brain, which is all about control and avoidance and people pleasing, all the basics of life that tend to drive us crazy, at least emotionally, and then mentally. So mental illness and emotional wellness are all tied together. And when we affect one, the other naturally affects. And so the snowball of change and transformation starts to happen. And people get onto a roller coaster of changing every aspect of their lives, which once started with stopping and changing a thought. And then that thought changed a feeling and an emotion, which brought about accessing an entirely new part of the brain through all these tools, meditation, contemplation, mindfulness, all the tools that we use on a daily basis. And in a short period of time, they began to heal. Their pain lessened. The medication that they needed disappeared, dissipated, fell away, or significantly decreased. And these are all things that we've started to record over the years to understand how change actually results for people and why certain people battle with not being able to change, and it makes them angry. Of course it does, and it makes them depressed, not being able to, especially with the pain of knowing that you're capable of all these things inside, just not knowing how to make it happen. So we help people heal, which is something you do on a daily basis. You don't go to a doctor once, you go to a doctor several times. So we heal the body, the mind, the emotions, and then we transform them. And to transform them is going above into meta cognition, or the contemplative field, and accessing the highest thinking, feeling, and behaviors that we have possible. And when we change that within us, we change the world that surrounds us.